Miracle and Gift were best friends long before money ever touched their hands, long before designer bags, champagne bottles, hotel keys, and December invitations became normal parts of their lives. They were best friends from a place where dreaming was easy but surviving was hard, where bills arrived faster than opportunities and patience felt like punishment. When life finally gave them a way out, they didn't ask too many questions, because hunger doesn't negotiate with conscience, and desperation doesn't wait for tomorrow. By the time Christmas came, they were already known. Not by their talents, not by their education, not by any business or profession, but by the lifestyle they lived boldly and without apology. People didn't ask what Miracle and Gift did for a living, because everyone already assumed the answer. They were baddies, and in the world they lived in, that word explained everything: how they dressed, how they moved, how they never seemed broke, how they always appeared in expensive places without visible sources of income. Christmas was their favorite season because it rewarded recklessness. It was the time when men spent without counting, when visitors arrived with foreign accents and loose pockets, when parties stacked on top of parties, and when enjoyment felt like a responsibility rather than a choice. While others saved money for Christmas food and family gatherings, Miracle and Gift prepared wardrobes, nails, hair, and bookings. They didn't talk about Christmas as a holiday. They talked about it as a season to cash out. They lived together in a tastefully furnished apartment that looked bigger online than it was in real life. Every corner of the space carried evidence of soft life: mirrors, ring lights, perfumes, shoes worn only once, and bags that announced status before they announced names. Rent was never discussed the way normal people discussed rent. It was always sorted. Bills were never feared. Someone always handled it. And if one source failed, another appeared. That was the system they trusted. Miracle was the louder one. Confident, bold, fearless, always joking that life was too short to suffer. She believed enjoyment was a reward for growing up poor. She laughed easily, danced freely, and never believed anything bad could happen to her because she felt protected by youth and confidence. Gift was quieter but sharper. She observed more, calculated more, but still followed the same path because the results were convincing. She didn't like poverty, and she hated dependence. If sleeping with different men paid bills without struggle, she saw it as strategy, not shame. They didn't see themselves as victims. They saw themselves as winners who cracked the code. Men came and went, and they learned how to separate feelings from transactions. One man paid rent. Another handled groceries. Another funded December enjoyment. Some stayed longer, some disappeared, but none mattered enough to change direction. What mattered was the lifestyle, the constant assurance that bills would never chase them the way poverty once did. As December approached, their phones buzzed nonstop. Invitations flew in from every direction: house parties, club nights, private dinners, holiday getaways. Each invitation carried expectation, and Miracle and Gift knew exactly what was expected of them. They prepared like professionals. New hair, new nails, new outfits. Their December calendar was booked before the month even began. The first Christmas party was loud and glamorous. Music shook the walls. Bottles lined tables. Cameras flashed. Miracle danced like nothing else mattered, her laughter rising above the noise, while Gift smiled calmly, observing faces, calculating options. Men surrounded them easily. Compliments flowed. Drinks never ran dry. That night ended in comfort, not at home, but in a place where questions were never asked. One party led to another. Sleep became irregular. Alcohol replaced meals. Their bodies survived on adrenaline, music, and excitement. They told themselves this was living, that suffering was for people who didn't know how to play the game. Whenever guilt tried to creep in, Miracle silenced it with laughter. Whenever doubt surfaced, Gift buried it under logic. Everyone wanted enjoyment. They were just brave enough to take it. During the day, they rested. During the night, they came alive. Their social media painted a perfect picture: luxury, confidence, beauty, freedom. People admired them quietly and judged them silently, but Miracle and Gift didn't care. Attention was attention, and admiration felt better than pity. They were finally being noticed, finally living the life they once admired from a distance. Christmas Eve arrived like a grand finale. Multiple bookings. Multiple expectations. Multiple promises of enjoyment. They dressed carefully, knowing this night mattered. Their outfits were bold, their confidence louder than usual. Miracle looked in the mirror and smiled, telling herself she deserved every good thing happening to her. Gift adjusted her hair and reminded herself that life didn't give second chances often, so when opportunity showed up, you grabbed it with both hands. The night was long. Music blended into laughter. Faces blurred. Promises were made and forgotten within hours. There was no fear, no hesitation, no thought of tomorrow. Christmas Day found them exhausted but satisfied, sleeping late, waking up to messages, transfers, and new plans. They laughed about how successful the season had been, how they truly ran Christmas. They didn't know that something had already changed. January came quietly, without celebration. The noise faded. The parties reduced. Life returned to its normal pace. That was when Miracle noticed she was tired all the time. Not the kind of tired sleep could fix, but a deep weakness that followed her everywhere. She blamed the season. Too much enjoyment, she said, laughing it off. Gift noticed she was losing weight faster than expected. At first, she enjoyed it. People complimented her. Clothes fitted differently. She posted pictures and accepted the praise. But the weight kept dropping. Their appetite reduced. Meals went unfinished. Strength faded slowly, quietly. Mirrors reflected faces that looked unfamiliar, cheeks slightly sunken, eyes less bright. Friends began to ask questions. Miracle dismissed them with jokes. Gift avoided mirrors longer than usual. They didn't want to think too deeply. Thinking deeply meant asking questions, and questions meant answers they weren't ready for. They avoided hospitals. Hospitals were places where reality became official. Hospitals asked about lifestyle, history, and choices. They weren't ready for that conversation. They told themselves it would pass, that the body just needed rest, that January stress was normal. They returned to occasional outings, but their energy never fully returned. Then one afternoon, Gift collapsed. It wasn't dramatic. No screaming. No crowd. Just sudden weakness that took her down. Panic followed. She was rushed to a clinic, and for the first time, Miracle couldn't laugh it away. Tests were ordered. Blood samples taken. The waiting felt endless. When the doctor finally spoke, his tone had changed, and Miracle felt fear settle in her chest. Further tests were required. That was the moment denial began to crack. What followed would change everything they thought they knew about enjoyment, youth, and consequences. After the tests, nothing was the same again. The truth they had avoided finally stood in front of them, heavy and undeniable. The doctor spoke carefully, choosing words that would not break them completely, but Miracle and Gift understood enough. The disease had already stayed too long in their bodies. It had grown quietly while they were busy enjoying life, and now it was no longer asking for attention, it was taking control. They began treatment immediately, but hope did not come with it. Their bodies responded slowly, weakly, as if strength had already left before help arrived. Days turned into weeks, and instead of improving, they grew thinner. Not the kind of thin people admired, but the kind that scared anyone who looked closely. Their cheeks sank. Their clothes no longer fit. Walking short distances became difficult. Laughter disappeared from the room they once filled with noise. They searched desperately for help. They moved from hospitals to prayer houses, from one recommendation to another. Money finished quickly. Phones stopped ringing. The same people who once celebrated them now avoided them. Some pretended not to know them. Others whispered that this was the price of a reckless life. Miracle tried to stay strong, still cracking jokes, still believing something would change. Gift grew quieter, withdrawing into herself, already tired of fighting. As the disease struck harder, reality became clearer. Nights were long. Strength faded daily. Regret settled in quietly. They talked about the past, about Christmas nights, laughter, money, and confidence, and for the first time, they admitted what they never wanted to say out loud. They had enjoyed without limits. They had trusted recklessly. They had believed youth would protect them forever. Gift gave up first. Not in anger, not in fear, but in exhaustion. One quiet morning, while Miracle held her hand, Gift slipped away gently, leaving behind silence where laughter once lived. Miracle broke that day. Everything she pretended not to fear rushed in at once. She stayed, weaker, thinner, waiting, hoping, praying, but the body that had carried her through reckless enjoyment could no longer fight. Not long after, Miracle followed. There was no celebration. No noise. No crowd. Just the end. Today, their story lives on as a warning. Two best friends who lived loudly, enjoyed recklessly, and believed consequences were far away, until Christmas fun turned into permanent silence. Their luxury faded. Their confidence failed them. And in the end, enjoyment could not save them.